Hey guys, AniCrunch here, and we're back with a new type of video, and that's a discussion. I want to discuss Haikyuu. I'm discussing my good friend, Elusive Fangirl. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Someone the elusive fangirl, and my recent reaction video YouTube. I don't know, very new, so just starting out and very unreliable with uploads. So there we go.
Yes, very. She took a. Actually, I can't say anything because it took me just as long to do Haikyuu season 4. We both
No,
reacted in 6+ months.
Yeah, I just looked up when my first video for Haikyuu to the Top season 2 when I uploaded that, and it was October the 8th. And obviously I just finished it last week, so it did take me pretty much exactly 6 months to finish this season, which is just insane.
I'm a bit more annoyed that your camera quality is actually better than mine. The webcam on my phone on my laptop's not great. Yeah, no, we're both fans of Haikyuu. I wanted to just chat shit about it for an hour. We'll be doing a tier list video over on Elusive Fangirl's channel if you want to check that out, if you want more of our in-depth opinions of every character, because that tier list is going to take forever because there's so many characters. Apart from all the blockage issues, I had a lot of fun with season 4 of Haikyuu. I think it was probably... Where would you rank it in your seasons? I'd say my second favourite season. It's hard.
It's really hard for me because I think before my ranking was season 2 just over season 3 and then season 1. I think this one tops season 2. I think it just about, like, as in combining part 1 and part 2, season 1 and 2
of course.
top combined, season 4 is the best, I think.
Yeah, see, it's tough. It's tough because season 3 I love, and it's well paced, well animated, and amazing. I didn't have any issues with the animation of season 4. I know a lot of people did, but the storytelling in season 4, along with the absolute amount of character development was superb. So it's like, it's hard.
Like, you get so much payoff. I think that's the hard thing. There was so much payoff for things that we've been building up in other seasons that we you can.
I couldn't be asked. I couldn't be asked to remove the Y on it. Oh, for fuck's sake.
But yeah, we had like so much build up and like things started in previous seasons and then finally paid off in this season because like we've been training so much that everything that everyone started training in back in even season 1 has now been paying off in season 4, and that's just like it means like you get a lot of sense of kind of like I don't know how to put it, but like it's like really exciting to see it all paying off, despite the fact that like actually you don't know whether to attribute that to the earlier seasons because they've had the build up for it. I don't know.
It's hard because the thing I liked about this season, it had to sort of reboot the building up again, because obviously season 3 had all the build up. Season 1 and 2 really built up to season 3.
Yeah.
So you could have moments like Suki, Yamaguchi, and Kageyama. But with season 4, they didn't reset the characters, but they just took the characters and excelled them. Like Hinata, for example, like where he was at the start of season 4 to where he was at the end. But that was all in season 4 for me. Like I know obviously he had development to get to the point he was at, but there was so much. The amount of change he made was so impressive.
I think what it kind of did for season 4, I think along with like the fact we had such a big gap, not for you, but for everyone else, we had like quite a big gap between season 3 and season 4. It kind of not reset, but it kind of we took the level that our characters are now at, and we kind of went like, this is the norm, and this is kind of like our new bottom level. So like even though they'd worked so hard to get to this point, this was now kind of okay, this is like a starting point for us to go up, because all the nationals will be at our level or better. So
yes,
like,
everyone's going to be superb.
Yeah, so it kind of I know what you mean. Kind of like, we kind of took all those skills we spent so long building up, and we kind of went, actually, these are just normal and expected for teams of our level. Yeah. So we need to get even better.
I think a better way of wording it is to do with, I think that was it. Season 3 didn't have to build up. It was just a payoff season. It was 10 episodes of one match. Pure payoff. Yeah. And it could take all the development from season 1 and 2 and just keep putting it in the match. Because to have a 10 episode game, you need to have more than just a match going on. It needs to be intense. And it was, and it just kept doing character development. Where I think season 4, that was it. It was just like, it had to do the build up again for 15 episodes. And then we just got payoff after payoff after payoff in the match.
Yeah, I think because the way they split it up, it was kind of like doing a part of a season 2 and a season 3 again, because the latter half was just the Inazaki match, so it was just a match again. with like obviously some bits of Nekoma in there as well. But it was just yeah.
The twins were great.
Oh my god, yes, yes. Oh, it was just so much fun to watch actually, which I really like. It's so nice to have like a sports anime where you just want to support everyone because everyone's really fun and realistic and just yeah.
Haikyuu is one of the few anime where if you had a spin-off series following any of the other teams, I'd fucking watch it. Like Nekoma, for example, are fully fleshed out just as much as Korono, and we already know that's leading up to next season where it's going to go, and that's just going to be like, geez, I can't, because they're building up so well. They're like,
yes, yeah.
And even times when, like, say they was going against the Twins team, I was supporting them. They would do like a fucking sick move, and I'd be like, fuck, that was sick. You deserve that. Well played. Like, I forgot. I don't remember his name. Do you know the one who's more kept to himself, very reserved? The one with the.
Do you mean the captain?
Is it? You got the two twins and the one who sort of looks like them, but he's like dead reserved.
Yeah, the captain. Yeah. Shinsuke, I think his name was. Yeah.
Oh, he was amazing. I loved him.
Oh my god, I think like. Yeah, just I think every character is just so fleshed out, and so you get to see, and like they do the flashbacks really well, so they don't overdo them. So you think, oh, I spent an entire episode watching a flashback for someone who I didn't even know about before. But like you go, oh my gosh, I actually know this person. I want them to try and succeed.
What I really loved about the flashback is that it wasn't from the point of view of the twins; it was the point of view of one of their teammates.
Yeah, it was Aaron.
Of them. So you got like sort of an outside point of view of how the relationship, and you got to see it. You didn't get to see a biased point of view of the twins, like where you got to see one twin's more perspective. You just saw them both through this character's eyes, so you got like a very even perspective view. It was so good.
I love that, and we did get to see the twins like opinions of each other because they do really really quick kind of flashbacks from I think each of the twins. Especially kind of like Osamu think about Atsumu like being a better player than him or kind of being more dedicated to volleyball. Like I thought that was really interesting to see because it was almost we got two perspectives. You got an outsider looking at them both just being amazing and being crazy, and then we got to see actually how they view each other, which I always really enjoy. So yeah.
What I love the parallel is what basically if Kageyama and Hinata met at a young age, it was basically what those two were. And then them doing, I think the series ended off with the move that they did at the very start of the show. They're quick, and then blocking it together. It was just like,
I know, I lost it. Like, no one has seen this yet because I haven't edited it yet. But I was just losing my mind because the first time that the twins did their quick attack, which was basically Kageyama and Hinata's first attack together, like. In the reaction, I didn't say it aloud, but I was thinking these lines are very familiar from Atsumu. And then in my reaction, I did put it in. I went back and watched the first time that Kageyama did the quick with him, and he had like the target and everything to hit at, and it was the exact same lines. So when that first happened, I was like, oh my god, they're obviously kind of drawing the parallel between the two of them because like we always thought of Hinata and Kageyama as unique because everyone who we've met has said how unique this style of playing is, like, and anyone would be crazy to try and copy it. And then we have these two people who managed to copy it exactly. Yeah,
I think I didn't catch it when I first watched it. I didn't really think about it, and then I watched I think one of Coach Donnie's videos, and I watched the scene. I was like, oh shit! And then I saw it in the Patreon comments not afterward, long after telling me. I was like, oh yeah.
To be fair, the reason why I recognise it, I have watched season 1 18 times.
Yeah, I've watched it once, so I'm on my plan to rewatch it again with someone. But yeah, it's such a good show. Jesus, we're not even touched upon how many good moments there were. Like,
I know.
Fucking top 10 moments. You got Hinata blocking. You've got fucking Tanaka's sick ass. You got Suki stepping up. You got Sugawara. Sorry if I'm butchering all the names. I'm terrible with them. Sugawara, when he did cried, and I cried because he cried. I was like, "Why are you crying?"
I was like telling him, I was like, "If you cry, I'm going to cry."
Because the third years is something that not many people talk about. It's one of my favorite aspects of this show, showing how they're basically at the end of their high school career. Not everyone goes to turn into the next Kageyama where they're going to play for the teams. It's like this is going to be one of their last big chances, and the show really hammers it. And it just, I love their friendship of like them knowing it's the last couple of games together, and it's like, because they'd be going on with their
Like,
lives.
I mean, it really feels like real life because, like, after school, they don't know which like colleges or unis they're going to go to, and like what they'll end up doing. Because even if they were going to play like as part of a club, they won't be playing together, and like some of them aren't even planning. So I think like as he was planning just go straight into working or something along those lines, like he wasn't planning to go to college. So it's kind of like even if they were to carry on, it wouldn't be with their teams, so they won't be playing together anymore, which is that would be something huge anyway. So yeah.
That's why it's so emotional. It's just like, oh, so sad.
I am
They even
ready
did
to cry buckets when they leave. I'm just gonna be in tears.
but they're doing a good job of setting up the cast that I could still feel like, oh, the team's going to function without the third years. It'd just be fucking weird. I don't know what they're going to do, as I don't know nothing about the manga, so I wonder if they're going to do a time skip or something. But other than that, I look forward to see how they're going to handle the next few seasons of Haikyuu, because it's finished now, the manga, isn't it?
Yeah, it finished not too long ago. Yeah. So I can't believe that. That's a really scary thought. We have a limited amount of content to now adapt into anime.
And one thing I liked about this season, it brought back characters I just thought would be fodder characters from like season 1, like the tall guy. You know, the tall guy who plays, he's like really tall.
Yes. Yes, I do know what you mean.
They brought him back, and I was just like, what? I didn't see that coming. And then they utilised him
know.
really well for Hinata's character development. Oh, when Hinata was watching from the sidelines and just learning, it was just like, oh, I love him. He turned into my favourite character in that like, Hinata I never saw as my favourite, but I loved him. But it's the season 4. It was just like, oh, he'd be such a good captain. The way he was motivating everyone when everyone was panicking and he punched the ball into the air. He was just like setting the pace.
Just even the payoff from seeing him teaching, I think it's Takizawa. Not Takizawa. Whatever his name is, the tall guy, 2 meter tall guy. Like when he did that, and like because he got that from watching. Who was he watching? He was watching. Was it a Seijo player? I can't remember, but he was watching a different player. Kunmi. He was watching Kunmi because he's really chill, and he just like throws it up into the air so that he can be really chill about it all. And so he took that and then said, "Oh, why didn't you try this?" And then he himself tried it. So it wasn't even something he invented; it was something he observed, advised someone else to do, and then did it himself later on because he can use tactics now, which is really cool.
He covered it. His weakest thing was blocking. He was terrible. He worked great at it. He was like a decoy middle blocker for most of the show. See him like just actually like reading situations. And what I love about the show, they make him do many mistakes. Like he fails at it so much. So when it actually succeeds, and Haikyuu does that quite a lot. It'd be like Yamaguchi with his floats. They could make him succeed the first time, and I'd be like, "Oh, well done, Yamaguchi." But what they do is they make him fail, and then they don't try and make him succeed in that very same match. That would be his one chance, and then it'd be like 3 matches later, he finally does it, and it's like you've watched him fail, and then you finally see him succeed. It's like way more impactful.
And even after he succeeded, like he still had to keep training for it because just because he got it right a few times doesn't mean he's perfected it. Like he's not perfected it or anything. He's just better at it, and he's got the technique. He's getting it down, but he's still trying to learn how to do it consistently. And that was like in season 4, like when we kind of got back to seeing him training. It was him also watching. I'm going to forget everyone's names in this podcast, of course, which is going to be awful. Watching the second year and like watching him training, he's like, oh gosh, I need to keep up with my training, otherwise I might lose my spot to him. So
Mate,
yeah,
you can pronounce the names. I butchered the names for most of the cast, for probably most of the show.
Oh,
like I just tried to find the easy name. Like I was like, Suki, Suki, easy.
I mean, it's fine. I'm just so forgetful that I know their names, but it's just whether I can recall them at the moment I'm trying to say them, which is like not really reliable.
Moments just keep popping into my head as I keep remembering the show. Like I just keep mentioning all the moments, and then you had like fucking Yu's moment where he was being bullied throughout the whole match.
Oh my god!
And then he fucking stepped up. Like, how many things happened in that match?
So much. I mean, was the entire it was in the entire second season was this match. Like whoa.
But it's just because everyone got such great moments. It's just like I don't think a character didn't get a moment.
Yeah, like, I think basically if you combine, I think you're right. I think everyone got their moment, but we kind of lessened a little bit, I think, on Suki, who had obviously his huge moment in season 3. Like, he did have moments in it, like
That's what I mean.
especially when Rintaro was having a go at him and says, "Oh, you're not scary at all. Like, Kageyama's a way scarier blocker than you, and you're the middle blocker." and then actually what Suki had been doing was teaching the rest of Karasuno how Rintaro would spike it, so that when he could actually block properly, they'd be prepared to receive it.
Block it as well,
so like all his little snarky moments were great, and also him jumping higher, him actually spiking. So his new moment is more to do with his spiking than his blocking. So like it's a reversal of Hinata, whereas he's now learning to receive more, and and now Suki is learning how to spike properly now.
They were filling a lot of the weaknesses. Like Tanaka, he was becoming the ace. I think you could tell he'd be like the ace of Karasu afterwards.
Yeah.
Where season 3 had a lot of great moments, but like say for example the Suki moment stands out. But when I think of season 4, I'm just thinking of all these moments that stand out. There's constantly like so many moments. There is a lot of moments in season 3 as well.
I know. I like again. I think it also comes with the benefit from rewatching, and like you pay more attention to other things that are happening. But I mean, for me, all of like Hinata's moments always stand out in whatever season, because he is like my favorite along with Kageyama. So like I always pay attention to him. So like him doing his spiking block where he runs up to do the blocking. And also some fantastic like receive, like not actually no, they were receives, though, kind of like his miracle receives. I think that's one thing I really liked about the seasons, because we often kind of before got really excited whenever like Hinata did amazing spikes, but we also did have those miracle kind of like receives, like his Spider-Man one where he jumped off the wall, that kind of thing. But it was really just kind of by chance his reflexes took him to the right place. But
yeah, this one was fully planned. Like he fully planned it, and that's the best part about it. Like
it.
He saw that ball and he went for it. We've seen him do it before and he's failed to catch it, but this time we just saw him. It was like he read the situation.
Yeah, because before he was like, he had it. He trained his mind before he got to his body, which I think is probably the right way around to do it. So like in every time he was watching during the training camps, he was teaching himself what to be looking out for, to how to read a spiker and when they're going to do a cross and everything. So like when he was picking up the balls and stuff, like he was learning where to position himself. But like he wasn't ready for like in an actual game with the actual speed and stuff, and so he was going too quick, reacting too much and stepping forward too eagerly and things like that. So when it actually paid off, and I love the fact that when he did the proper receive, they first showed it just as a Haikyuu episode normally would, just have like the point playing out, and as soon as it faded to white, before we saw anything, I was just like so excited, because I was like, I know it's going to happen, because I knew who was on the court and who was in the air, and I was like, I know someone's going to get it. So I was so excited, and I completely lost my mind when he received it. And then the fact that they played it back, but from Hinata's point of view, and showing his whole thought process to really kind of drive it home that this was completely planned. None of this was like a really good moment of luck or anything like that. Like this was fully planned. It's just such a good payoff. I was so proud.
And one of the fun things about season 1 reactions, this is the same guy who closed his eyes when he used to spike. Like this guy used to just spike on instinct. There was no, he was not a character who planned what he were doing.
It was
see that.
Yeah, because I mean back then what it was is he could spike with his eyes open, not well, but he could. But to be able to spike Kageyama's like really good set, he'd have to close his eyes, because otherwise he'd just be following the ball. Like he has such an instinct just to follow the ball rather than to like, now he kind of looks more at where the opponents are. He doesn't look at the ball because he can trust that it will be there. He just has to work out where he wants to hit it.
Well, it's one of my favorite things about season 2 was the argument where they had to they basically they could carry on what they were doing and it would work, or they just have to start from the ground up again, and that was genius.
Such a good argument. It was so like that conflict is why season 2 was my favorite season. Like it's still very close with season 4, but that conflict was just brilliant because you really could see both sides of the argument, because they were really close to doing their final chance of going to the nationals, like doing the tournament, going to nationals. And if they messed this up, then the team just wouldn't get anywhere, and that would be it. But they had to take the chance.
Yeah, it's like anything in life, you can get comfortable doing something, and the thought of making yourself completely change that when there's such a big reward at the end of the line, if you just keep doing what you do, it might work. To just go back to square one, Hinata wants to do this thing. It's like, fucking hell, it's a big risk, and it paid off massively in the long run. Because that's the thing. What I like about Corono is that they kept going back to basics and then relearning it, and it's just like, oh, and it was like it wasn't one of those shows I've watched like a lot of sports anime, and a lot of them just either the development goes nowhere or it goes too fast. Haikyuu was that perfect amount of. They have a bit of obscene skill, like Kageyama being as good as he is at like a high school level volleyball. But it's like that's what keeps it interesting. You give a lot of the stuff the characters are doing, people at their age wouldn't be doing. But that's why we like anime. It's like
I know, yeah. This is fictional. This isn't non-fiction. But like, also, I love they also had a talk at the end of this season. They were talking about geniuses and the point about everyone saying, "Oh, you're born with this talent." Like, no, you can be born with slightly better, maybe reflexes or something. But like, to get to the point where Kageyama and like the Mia twins and where Hinata by the end of this was, like, that was a lot of hard work, and it's quite interesting because everyone else got that training from as soon as they started volleyball, but Hinata, because he didn't get that, we've watched his entire growth, and so we've really started to watch him build up. So like, he is starting to get to the point where like I could see like in a few years time he could almost be at a genius level as well, like he'd be that good. But it's just like we've seen it all happen, so we've had this slow build up, whereas like Kageyama and everyone else, it's happened behind and like before we've met them. So
we get through flashbacks. Well, one thing you forget is in episode 1, he had no one to practice with, and he tried to keep convincing his friends. Yeah. And then he sucked it up and then asked the girl team for help. And then it was just like progression after progression. But yeah, there is geniuses out there, and the show does show that. It's just people who like the Okinawa settler. I forget. Why do I forget his name? Okabe? I fucking love his character. What's his name? You know, the settler, the king settler.
Oikawa.
Yeah, is it Oikawa? Yeah. He's just a genius. Like the fact that his settling, his leadership of his team, and bringing out the best in everyone. It was just like Jesus
even
Christ.
For him, we saw how he was struggling at one point. Like because when Kageyama showed up, like he was struggling to come to terms with the fact that. We did, yeah. So we did see again, like Kageyama was naturally gifted and had that natural passion as well to play. But so we saw how Oikawa struggled to get even better, and so like I think people are naturally gifted, but to get to the level where you're called a genius is actually the hard work. So you can be naturally gifted, but you just be a really good player.
Oh yeah, it's that thing. You can be born tall, but then Hinata can prove that he's half the size yet he can still jump as high as any of them. No, good point about that. With Kageyama, he was more the genius. It was more he could bring the best out of his team. That's why I said it was always about this king for himself and then a king for everyone. So that's what. Yeah. The development for both of them. Oh, that's so good. He had a little moment as well when he's jogging as well. It's like I love hearing the harsh coach from season 3 his opinion.
Yeah.
Like, I always love harsher coaches. It's sort of like he looked like he not always basically someone he wanted to be. And then he just went to coaching. It's just like, I could take different paths.
Yeah, it's whether you have the... I mean, Hinata's just determined. He was determined to play no matter what anyone said. Like, there wasn't a volleyball team in his school. He says, well, that's fine. I'll be the volleyball team. It would be just me. Kind of like his determination throughout. Because he could have just stopped. Because like, he wanted to play because he saw a match and was inspired. But he could have learned there was no one there, tried to get some people to join, failed, and gone, okay, well, maybe I'll just play football this year or something, because that's what I think what he was originally playing with his friend and whatnot. But no, he just like kept going. I mean, like every moment where he's had a development is because he's decided to push forward and go further than the normal person probably would actually try and go, unless you had that passion for volleyball. Like, even the training camp, he shouldn't have even gone there. And, like, none of this development would have even happened.
Well, the thing about Hinata as well, he's a hungry motherfucker. Like, he's scary. Do you know when, like, he consumed... Like, Ashley, I think it was, and then he was just consuming the court, pushing him out of the way. It's like... That's what I love about him. It's like, he's scary.
Oh, my God. His eyes, whenever he's intense, are just, like, the best thing when I was watching the concrete. Yeah. Oh my God. Such a line. Oh my God. It was just brilliant. That was one of my favorite moments. I did like a I love the manga panel for it as well. For that jump is brilliant. Oh, it's so good.
I'm gonna stay on the concrete for my guy. That sums up his character in one that whole set of that conversation.
Yeah.
But nah, you know, can't believe he went from like third favorite, fourth favorite to like first. Instantly, I was like, I love you. I love Suki, and I've got a personal relation to Suki where it's like he's snarky, sarcastic. I love him, but you know, mate, he got me motivated watching it. Like I'm not super hype reactions, but whenever I was watching Haikyuu, I just got hyped. It was just like chills and stuff like that. It gets a lot of emotions out of you. It's impressive.
I think also what I was surprised about, because I've rewatched it so much. I think the first time I was
just a bit,
just a little bit,
and then how many reactions you watched?
Oh no, yeah. My rewatches of 18 does not include the amount of reactions I've watched for it as well, because I don't count them as fully rewatching the show. So I've rewatched it 18 times on my own, and then I've watched over 34 different reactors react to Haikyuu.
Jesus Christ, I've watched that too.
It's how I like do. It's my kind of screening process to find if I like a reactor, is how they react to Haikyuu and how they react to different characters in different situations. I don't know.
If they're watching the dub.
Oh yeah, yeah. You were in trouble for a while.
That's not. I did episode 1 dub because I was like, I'd try it out because I like dub.
The way I found your channel was I did actually find you because of your Haikyuu reaction. I saw it was dubbed and I watched it anyway. But then I was like, I listened to it. I thought I cannot bring myself to do it. And then it was because so I left your channel. I came to Haikyuu, watched an episode left. And then Given happened, and I watched your Given reaction. And then by that point, you'd had like a couple more episodes of Haikyuu up, and you got to the point where you'd switched to sub, and I was like, okay, this can happen now.
I literally did 1 episode dub. I didn't do more episodes, 1 episode. I got so much shit. Like, because I'm quite casual towards dubs. I like dubs, I think, when I'm watching a lot of chilled shows. But I would admit the Haikyuu dub changes things. It's got a different atmosphere.
I have like so my thing with dubs is I'm normally okay, because when I started watching anime, what I'd do is I'd watch the dub and then I'd rewatch it in sub. That's just how I watched every anime I watched to begin with, and for a long time that's how I did it. When I first watched Haikyuu, there was no dub, so I watched sub obviously. When I heard there was a dub, I was a little kind of intrigued. I was not really excited. I was trying to work out whether I was excited. I don't think I was excited, but I was kind of like, oh, I wonder how they're gonna give like which voice actors they'll choose and whatnot. And I think I can be a little bit picky about voice actors, so I didn't particularly like some of the choices for voice actors, but I said, okay, you know what, I'll listen to a bit. I think I got to Noya's voice actor and I just had to stop, and then I did. Yeah, it was hard, but I did then continue for a bit longer, and I'm watching someone else react to it in dub, and I'm kind of forcing myself to go through it. But it's my problem is not the voice actors anymore, because I can just like I can forgive that, like I can ignore that after a while. But it is the way they change the script. Like it's so different, and because I've watched it so much, the actual sublines. I know what the dialogue is, and I know even if I didn't know what the exact dialogue was, I would know the feeling behind each thing and what the intent behind like every conversation is, and the way that they completely change it in the dub for Haikyuu. For I think it's mainly season 1. I don't think I've watched. I think I've seen some of season 2 as well, but like it's just completely different. I think it gets a little bit better as you go along, but again, it's just I hate the original content being lost because of it.
The big problem is it's for a show you love as well. When it's a show you love, it's completely different. Like Hunter x Hunter dub, it's not terrible. Fucking hate it. I love that show to bits. So it's like because voice acting is super important, along with the facial expression and music. They all combine to make a perfect scene. If your facial expressions don't match the voice, it's like oof. Even if it's just a little bit. But nah, I didn't mind a dub. I probably would have watched it all in dub, but I'm glad I changed because I think it's so much better.
Yeah, I just think the characters change so much because of the script changing as well as the voice actor. That was my issue, because it was the characters which are, for me, normally the biggest selling point of an anime is if I get attached to characters, and for Haikyuu, the characters are just amazing. So the fact that their personalities were changed, in my opinion, through the dub, really hurt me because I knew loads of people who were trying the dub and not like willing to watch the sub, and I was like, but you won't know the characters.
The best example I can give is Hinata. He comes across quite selfish in the dub, but it's completely opposite in the sub.
The first episode, because he kept saying about him winning and stuff, and that was the complete opposite. He wanted a team and to win with a team, and he was so encouraging to his team.
It's enough of a context to change. That it makes sense. I just realised I could timestamp this video as well, so I could be like, oh, we talk about the dub. Yeah, I was like, yes. I like the timestamp feature.
If you like the dub, because I know there's some people who actually really like the dub. So
there's loads of people who like the dub.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say I shouldn't. I will say the voice actor passing for the manager was sad, but they got the replacement did a fantastic job.
I think
you barely.
Yeah.
Well, you know this, but.
Yeah, when I watched it, so I was watching it with a friend. As soon I can't remember which day it came out on. I think maybe it was Friday evening or something. I can't even remember when it would actually come live. But I always waited to watch it with my friend at school at lunchtime. So during lunchtime we'd have my laptop out and we'd be watching it. And when on the version that we watched, it had a little in memory of at the end, and we both just started crying because it was already an emotional episode. But when we realized that would be the last time we heard him, we were just crying so much because his last line was the whole thing about looking up, and I was just like, it's such an inspiring moment, and the fact that that's the last time we hear his voice, it was just, oh my god, it's too much.
The thing is, his character is it Ukai?
Yeah.
Yeah. God, I'm like, oh, Liam, you impress yourself sometimes. I'm so unconfident when it comes to saying characters' names. He's such a fantastic character. Like, he is the best mentor I've seen in like anime in general. The way he motivates his team, criticizes them but gives them feedback. Like just scenes like one of my favorite scenes is when he pulls Kageyama off the pitch to watch at the sideline to look at Sugawara and see how he handles the team. It's like just giving people different perspectives, and then him going back on the court after watching that. It's like, oh, and even all the benchers that do a good job with as well.
Yeah,
to get into that.
Like I love that he's not like he wasn't going to be a coach. Like he's not very. He's not really got the technique down, like especially at the start. He's much better now than he was at the start. At the start, he was a volleyball player. He's someone who loved volleyball and had lots of experience, and therefore could be a good coach because he could see what they were doing wrong and what they could do better. But he didn't really have down like what it actually means to coach and like how to find out like the best way to use your players and stuff, rather than kind of like, oh, I can see this needs a bit of work kind of thing. Like you need to actually kind of strategize a little bit more and kind of. I don't know, it's a different way of looking at a team rather than being as a player on the team. So the fact that like we had several moments where his granddad was saying kind of like, or we had moments where like the first time it was because Yachi mentioned the fact that his granddad said that their quick attack was wasted, and he was like, wait, what? You should have wondered.
Sorry. I was getting a shiny forehead, it's annoying me. Still is shiny. Carry on.
But yeah, the first time like you actually mentioned that, and he was like kind of like, oh, it's being wasted. Like, what does he mean by that? Like, he was annoyed that he couldn't work out what his granddad meant by that. So obviously he had some growth to go through. And like we had the discussion at the end of this season between him and his granddad. He's still learning as well. He's learning alongside the team. All of them are growing, and it's just like. If he carries on, I can't see him not carrying on as like Kurasuna's coach. Like he will keep getting better at coaching new players and just seeing how they can work into the team. So that's really exciting.
Ooh, yeah, no, mate. I just keep memories keep popping into my head. Like I was just thinking about Hatanaka. Was it Tanaka? Was the only second year who stayed?
Yes.
Moments like that are amazing. It's like all of second years came back. It was like he stayed through some of the hardest times.
Yeah, because at one point in time, every one of the other second years had left the team for one reason or another. Whether they quit because at the time they were thinking it's too much, or in Noya's case because Asahi left. Like Tanaka was the only one who stayed with the team. It was really interesting when you come to that conclusion, like, wow,
He
yeah.
he went from my weakest team member, like he was always one of my weaker ones, to like one of my favourites in that season. I know a lot of people just love him because of his personality type, but he wasn't someone who I like connected with. But in that season, I was just like, I felt that guy. I ended up liking him quite a lot.
He was actually in the season 2 of To the Top. He was the main reason why I cried during any point of the season. I got like teary eyed when Suki was crying towards the end, but the only time I like and also Shinsuke with his past and everything, when he finally got to go on the team, I kind of like got a bit weepy. But like Tanaka's moment where we got to see his point of view and him saying like, I'm just average on this team of amazing players, kind of thing, and like him just being beaten down by everything during that episode was just
Yeah.
like, oh.
Because he's always had a lot of self-doubt, and it's just like really came to fruition. Just seeing him like that, the imagery of Haikyuu, especially season 4 and 3, when it starts showing like more imagery stuff like the cliffs, or when Hinata and Kageyama put to the floor, and then there was like the imagery. Yeah, the imagery in Haikyuu is very impressive.
Yeah.
I guess we could talk about the animation. I know a lot of people care about it. What did you think? Like, honestly.
Okay, so obviously we had, I think it was only 1 or 2 episodes as well. It was like literally, I think it was just 2, maybe 3, I can't remember, episodes which had moments of just weird animation and art because like obviously ran out of time or budget or whatever. But I think it was mainly budget. But I think it's weird because I've watched so much anime at this point, and I kind of have an interest in general for like filmography, that I pay a lot of attention to what animators, and also Gintama influences as well. I pay a lot of attention to what animators do and don't do. So I pay a lot of attention to when still scenes are used and it's just characters' mouths that are moving for talking, things like that. And rewatching like earlier seasons, you'll find like animation is so good, but you might find there are slightly more still frames or reused frames because of talking. Whereas in these last couple of seasons, you'll actually find a lot more dynamic scenes and animation being used, and like actually one-off animation. So I think the animation went way up, but because they spent so much time on this animation, they obviously were running out of time. Obviously, everything with COVID just threw everything out the window.
I think that was a big impact.
Yeah.
Like, I think they outsourced a few episodes, so that's why it looked a bit weird. And then the outsourced episodes, like whenever you watch Gurren Lagann in episode 4, that always looked jarring because they outsourced it, or different directors. Overall, I think the animation it did a lot more. Was it this season they followed the ball a lot more? Like, or it was showing how the ball would just zap by so quickly.
I don't know. I think there was definitely a kind of different direction in the animation. Like I think I commented a couple of times. I remember there was a Kageyama serve where we followed the ball backwards, like so we were looking back at Kageyama and going that way rather than following the ball and watching it going forwards to where it will land. Yeah. So there's lots of changes which were just really interesting to see because it's. I think another thing that's interesting with Haikyuu is the fact because it's a sports anime. The way it's adapted from manga to anime is always really interesting because you have still scenes in the manga of like really necessary things. So like you have like where the points are landing and everything, but you obviously don't have every single motion between the two.
Between that, so the impact frame can be like really nice in the manga.
And I think so, yeah. So the impact frames are just fantastic, but like you don't know what the transition is going to be. So I think the animators have a lot of freedom to work out how they want to animate a certain move to be shown, like which direction and stuff. But I think I really did enjoy the camera movement a lot more in season 4. I think it was a lot more dynamic.
The camera movement, there was a lot of movement. The one thing I always give it, even on the badly animated episodes, there was characters who were always moving. The lack of still images. It's like one thing I think, like what the debate now with Attack on Titan. If you ever rewatch season 1 of that, there's like scenes of 5 minutes of just still images and characters talking over it. Yeah. Yes, it had those amazing scenes of animation, don't get me wrong, but there was a lot of still images, talking, nothing happening, mouth movements, or zoom outs, whereas like in season 4, a bit more CGI help, but it was always constant moving on the screen.
That's what I think most people kind of miss, and I think that's completely fine because that is the idea. Is you're not supposed to focus on it. You're not supposed to look really analytical into the animation. You're supposed to just absorb the show. And so whilst they're talking, it sometimes is actually better that you're just focusing on what they're saying rather than other things distracting you in the scene. So sometimes you do need that still image. But I think in the sports anime, especially when this one is just focused on a match, you really do need that dynamic kind of movement most of the time, and just it makes it feel more alive because you don't just stand still. Like even if you're just chatting, someone will be like fiddling or moving, or you're still in the background. Someone's moving or something. Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things I always forget as well was there was actually the art style change. I forgot about that. I think that might have threw a lot of people off. I preferred the new art style personally because the character proportions are more realistic.
Yes, I like my thicker boys.
Well, my biggest problem is with anime. A lot of anime characters, you can just get the face and then switch out the hair, and it'd be the same character. Let's be honest, a lot of the OG Haikyuu character designs they were all very exactly same body types.
Yeah, it was just literally kind of like an enlargement tool. Just if you took one thing and just enlarged it or made it smaller, it would be the same body. Yeah.
Whereas in this one, Kogeyama was a big difference. Like he was stockier, very muscly back, and like you could see in his legs and that lot, and you could tell he was a stockier lad. Like he was a thick boy. He was looking thick in season 4.
Yeah.
But in season 3, he was a lot skinnier, and these guys play volleyball. They're training and running. They're going to look thick.
Their muscles, yeah, like because Kageyama's got like dumbbells and stuff in his room. Like he does train like at home, and Hinata as well. Like they focused more on building up his legs because again he had really skinny legs, but he was jumping so high. But this season they filled them out a bit more, and so it's just like these proportions make more sense for the kind of movements they're doing and how frequently they're doing in this and the training. Yeah.
Was that Ashihi as well? He was meant to look scary in previous seasons, but I'm like, he just looks sexy. And then the latest season, it was like, okay.
And it was
I see why he might look a bit more intimidating.
I remember you were kind of, when we first were talking about it, when you first started watching season 4, and you were saying, I like everyone's new designs except from you weren't too sure about Ashley. And I was like, actually, I had the same reaction, kind of. But I was kind of like, oh, wait a second. He's kind of fitting what everyone's been saying about him. He's actually fitting it now. He doesn't look like a really soft, big guy who just like, he actually looks like he could be a scary guy if you didn't know what his character was like. So yeah, I thought that was a really cool change.
And I think these character designs led to better facial emotions because the face weren't so like. I think it was quite hard to show him. Like they did it obviously in season 3 and that lot, but for Hinata, for example, he had a lot more. You got the pure ecstatic energy from the facial expressions in season 4. You got that in previous seasons, but it was a lot more stiffer. Whereas I felt with this season, every time he was hype or happy or like, you saw like the glistening in their eyes and the way they just changed his face and his hair and that lot. It was like it was just, I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to explain.
I think what from my point of view, what it was is like I think previously in a weird way, like the bodies had been more anime, but the faces were trying to be realistic. So like they weren't being overly expressive most of the time. They would just kind of be normal kind of expressions that you'd expect from someone, but just put on an anime face. Whereas this one, they kind of went, we're an anime. We can go a bit crazy with the art. We can like make someone smile, take up their whole face if we want to. It doesn't matter about proportions. So I think they can really make the expressions a lot bigger and more exaggerated than before.
Like I might just be misremembering because I've obviously watched season 4 recently and remembering facial expressions, but I don't know, something just stuck with me here, not as facial expressions where it hasn't in previous seasons.
He also has bigger eyes. Most of the characters actually have bigger eyes this season, and a lot of people, when they're reading expressions, look at people's eyes.
Yeah.
So I think the fact they have bigger eyes, they can do a lot more with them, and therefore you can read a lot more from his eyes. But like, also, again, with camera, we did a lot more when it was an emotional moment, really close up of his face. Whereas before we kind of did, but not to the extent I think we had in season 4. Whereas, like, for example, when he went to the training camp and we had him shouting out, I'm a ball boy. And, like, we had the real zoom in and, like, whilst he was shouting and his like, whole face was scrunched up as he was shouting. Like, it wasn't just, like, his mouth going really big. It was, like, his whole face was, like, contorting as he was shouting. So it really, really expressive, and like because of these zoom-ins, we can just go wild with it a little bit longer. So
Yeah, one of those things as well. I think the hard thing, because only part one of half first came out, a lot of people saying like nothing happened in this half, and then when I read that, I was like,
Yeah,
"What are you
so
fucking talking
much
about?" It was
happened.
all so much up, but I think the problem is a lot of people you didn't get the payoff until the next part. Like
Yeah.
Hinata's character arc, it was amazing to watch, and if you didn't have the second half, you'd be like, "Oh, it didn't really go anywhere." But once you watch the second half, all that fucking payoff, I
It
watched his
was.
character go. Where season 3 just had it could just be that match. Like I think don't get me wrong, there was some episodes where the animation was like, yeah, the background character's looking Joe. Why is he looked like he only got one leg and stuff like that? There was flaws. I'm not just going to be sitting there like, oh, it was amazing. There was flaws,
Yeah.
but to compare it to season 3, which was 10 episodes and it was one match, to a show that was 25 episodes with a lot more with COVID, it's like it's so unfair.
Yeah, I know,
And it did
and
look dreadful.
I think season 3 really spoiled people, because not only was it released so soon after season 2, like 'cause it was the same year. I think it was literally. I think season 2 was in the spring, and then like end of summer, autumn was season 3. It was literally like several months, and then we got the next season. So not only did we get it so quick, because obviously they'd been working on it at the same time as season 2, but because it was just like you said, like a full payoff. It was just a payoff match where we had loads of really big moments happening, and it was just a match. So it was just lots of exciting things happening. Whereas, like, we then had to kind of come back to reality, like, yes, we've gone to the finals of this. Now we just have this time between the finals of the prefecturals and the start of the nationals. And we do need that character growth between them, because they're not going to just be doing like the normal stuff. I mean, maybe they would have if Hinata hadn't done something, but like they wouldn't just be doing normal stuff. They would be still trying to train more and in different ways. So we
Well,
did have that build up again.
the one thing I always say is that some shows just feel like it has to keep topping itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just be like, okay, good, now let's top itself, let's top itself, let's top itself. But you need the build up to get to that point. So a lot of when shows do it right, is they will go like they'll cool off,
Yeah,
get the story building up again, which is the first half of season 4.
yeah,
We've just finished. We've got to build up nationals and all these new teams, and it was just like slowly building up, and then and then towards the end it started to ramp back up to where it was. Whereas if you just trying to top itself from the previous season without any build up, it's going to burn out. You can't just keep taking character development from 2 seasons ago and keep trying to drain it. You need to start bringing in new
I think that was
stories.
the thing. It was again, it's a build up for the payoff. So we've had the payoff up till then. We had most of the payoff already done from season 1 and season 2. The start things that started back then. In season 3, we got to see a lot of it paid off, or the end of season 2, we got to see it paid off. So we needed kind of new things to kind of look forward to happening. Things that we hadn't thought of before, because the characters hadn't been aiming towards them before. Like Hinata hadn't been thinking about his receives. Like he'd been trying to do like passable receives just so that he could stay in the match. But nothing other than that. Whereas like in season 4, he's obviously just focusing on his receives until we got to his jump as well. Then we also got to focus on him learning to jump properly. Um, but it was a lot more to do with a completely different aspect with it. But we had to have that build up, otherwise it would really come out of nowhere if like we just went straight into him. If we just say had like a montage instead of having like the first 10 or 11 episodes of the part 1 being like a build up during training camps, if we just did a montage of each of the characters doing their own training and then went straight here's nationals, like
Yeah.
we'd be like, okay, it's kind of a bit of a shock, and we just kind of go, well, we don't know any of these new teams, and what's our team going to do? And it wouldn't, even if we kind of
Well,
had a match and we had them doing a new move and they said, oh, this is a flashback to when they were doing this in training, if we hadn't seen the training happening, it'd feel a little bit cheap.
it's one reason Kageyama's storyline. It might not have been the biggest part, but him following when they did that elite team thing. That's how we got to know all the other characters. We got to know the twins. We got to know the snarky comments. We got to meet who's the little guy, who's like
Oh,
Hanashina. Yeah, we
think
got to meet all those characters. All thanks to it might not be Kageyama, might not be getting the big growth because let's be honest, Kageyama's pretty much perfect. I love what I love about Kageyama.
Character that needs to change, yeah.
Yeah, well, what I love about Kageyama, everyone told him his king trait was bad. Being selfish was bad. This is bad. This is bad. And Hinata was the first one to be like, no, these are good traits. You need to be a bit harsher. You need to control the court. And when he was doing that, I was just like, oh, so.
I mean, this is like another really good kind of example of the whole Ukai coach like kind of needing to grow a bit more, because he said actually in actually a couple of occasions during the season we kind of pointed out the fact that he's still learning, because one, he was saying right at the start, he said, oh, I've kind of been stunting Hinta's growth because I've been thinking of what's best for the team rather than thinking what's best for him. Like he could have been improving so much on his own if we were focusing just on his thing. Like, for example, like he also had agreed with Kageyama at the time that they shouldn't have him learn to do like a new different type of spiking. He said, "Oh no, you should just like practice your other moves just so you can perfect them instead." So he wanted the safer thing because he was thinking of like what would be good for the team, not what would be good for Hinata and like Hinata's future as a player. But we also had that in this season with Kageyama and the whole King thing, where it wasn't really addressed by Ukai at all. Like,
Yeah.
really not at all.
Well,
It was
he didn't
just
really get to
players.
see it, did he?
Yeah,
Though, because
yeah,
the problem
exactly.
is this part of his development. It was back before he joined the whole King thing and watching that fall, so he was
Yeah,
trying to repress it quite hard.
yeah. So he didn't really get to see the king at all. But what he did get to see was how Kageyama really did adapt how he set to everyone based on their needs, and wasn't like Kageyama was never pushing anyone to change at all. Like when he was first practicing with Asahi and stuff, he'd be like saying like, "How is that served? Do you want it higher? Do you want it lower? Like, what do you want? Not actually, I think you could
Yeah,
go higher. I think actually, if you did this, you could be more powerful, or anything like that." He was never trying to push something on them. He was saying, "Tell me what I need to do so that you feel better." He was fully
I've
serving them and being a goody two shoes.
see.
So yeah,
I think the biggest difficulty for him as well was that he never, when he did it before, he didn't build the trust of his teammates,
mm-hmm.
and because he spent that time, you saw actually he didn't get mad. For example, when he was calling him out, he won't get mad. He was just like, "I respect Kogeyama." He gained the respect to be able to start doing that, whereas I think before he was just doing it
I think not only
without.
that, but if you rewatch when Kageyama like had the moment, the kind of the breakdown with his old team, you see his thoughts make complete sense. Like what he's thinking makes a lot of sense. He
Yeah,
just never verbalized it. He never said anything to his team. He kind of went through the whole
because
thing about, okay, the blockers are really getting on to them. He never said that anything of that to his team. He just
he
said,
would keep it in his head,
you need to
weren't
go
he? Yeah.
faster. He was like, he wasn't even like saying it like, he just said like, we need to go faster. We need to go, like, he wasn't explaining why he was saying this. He was just saying it at them.
He was giving the criticism without the constructive part,
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
much.
exactly. Kind of basically what his coach should have said, rather than just saying, "Oh, it's not all about speed." It shouldn't have been that. I think his coach needs to say, "Okay, like he needs to recognize that Kageyama was not was not saying anything to his team. There was no communication at all between them, absolutely none. So that's what needed to be worked on, and then that's what's been happening throughout Haikyuu is that Kageyama's been learning more about his players, but he has still not been saying anything to them. He's just been learning what they're like, how to read them, even if subconsciously he doesn't realize it. But like, for example, when Hinata was really struggling when they were doing their new quick attack, like he could read like this was going to be hard on Hinata and that this was like really getting him down. So he tried to back off and do the normal set, and Hinata got so angry about it. But that's because he was reading him. So he had learned to read them, but Kageyama's a hard person to read. Like everyone's first impressions
Yeah,
is he's like he's so
yeah,
serious and he's so scary, and he's just like, I need to go get a t-shirt. Like it's just it's
yeah.
so
No.
good. But yeah, so he's a
Oh, the
really hard person
comedy,
to read.
so good.
So it really was, but luckily Hinata is someone who has a lot of empathy and can read other people very well. And so he can read Kageyama very well, which is why he's not afraid of him most of the time. He's only afraid of him because he's going to get hit in the head with a spike or something like, or a serve or something
Oh
like
yeah.
that, or that he's going to get shouted at. He's never afraid of him because he can't read him. Like he can read him pretty well. So it's that moment with the recrowning of the king was so good. Oh, it's such a good payoff again. Just
So many good moments.
and it's something you didn't really see coming until like because you see all this building up and everyone kind of got the moment like, oh god, is there going to be a big fight? Are we going to kind of go backwards because of like Nishinoya versus Kageyama and like then him being rude to Asahi saying then get the damn point. Like it was such a whoa kind of scary moment. And then he had to completely diffused it all because he was like, yeah, so he's being selfish, so what? Because kind of that's what spikers kind of are as well. They go out there, especially with Kageyama as a setter, they go out there going for what they want to do. They don't listen
Mm.
like necessarily to what Kageyama's saying because he's very free with it. He does have signals, but he doesn't use them as much, I think, as other setters do. So it very much is like, oh, you run where you want to run to, and I'll decide whether I think you should be the one to get the
So
point.
good. It's honestly, Kogeyama's character. That's the thing. He's basically that harsh teacher in school. You know, the harsh teacher where he got you to do shit. He was a bit of a dick, but it was like he motivated you.
Yeah, exactly. So
They balanced each other so well.
Yeah, I think that's just what's so good in this season, because now he's learned that actually being the king and being selfish and telling them what to do is not doesn't have to be a bad thing if he's communicating properly. That like the difference between him and Suki and how they interact from even just last season, just like in season 3, is just enormous, because they're both now trying to take the blame for when things go wrong. They're like, no, I'm doing this wrong, because they can recognize what's actually going wrong.
Suki's character development, along getting his past and just understanding that guy. He was just a snarky dickhead when you first meet him, to like fucking, and when you get his past and you hear everything, you get the full story, it's like, how can you not cheer for the guy?
Yeah.
It's just like, the first time or that's one thing Haikyuu always plants seed. It's like the first time he ever enjoyed a sport, he's like, he doesn't enjoy it, and then when you see him actually enjoy it, it's like, Haikyuu knows what he's doing. Now, Kogeyama is such a good character.
Yes, I think in terms of character development, Kageyama just wins for me. He's just such a the way he's changed. That's just me. Like I think there's such a big difference. Well, it's not only with his kind of character and his personality, but also how others are interacting with him. It's just all so different.
I agree with you, but it's just because it's a sports anime, and you have your personal skill at the sport character development, which I think Hinata wins hands down.
Yes.
And then you have your actual character development as a person. I would agree, Kogeyama, because this thing in sports anime, they totally go hand in hand, because you get characters like Ippo from, if anyone's watching Ippo, he never develops as a person. He is the exact same character he was in episode 1, as he is 100 episodes, 200 episodes down the line, but his skill in the sport is completely different.
Yeah.
So it's like, whereas Haikyuu does a good job of not just giving you the improvement at the sport itself, but obviously their personal, how they are as a person and growing up, and obviously being in their teen years to going towards adulthood. It's like Haikyuu does a good job balancing it. Whereas I feel like a lot of sports anime, they either go too much one way, or they go too much developing on the actual personality, but then their skill in the sport is crap still.
Yeah, we had like a real mix of it, because with Asahi, like, he has obviously improved his skills, but I think his biggest thing is actually his personality, and how he went from the person who he'd been scarred by his match against Atako to being actually confident in himself, and like confident in himself enough that he can do jump serves and try and get serve aces, which is quite a big thing to risk, because otherwise you're just losing points every time you do it. So you have to have a lot of confidence to do that. But also the fact that he wasn't backing down from really strong opponents, just like that kind of thing, was just really good. And obviously Hinata matured so much during the show. Like, he really was. He really was just like a little child full of energy.
It is. It's very weird for me, because this was the first team sports anime I've watched. So it was very different from watching like Baby Step, which is about a character playing tennis, Ippo, which is about a guy who's personal skill in boxing. It was very interesting to just watch it, how a team grow itself. And what I like about Haikyuu is that you get to see how different teams work. Like, some teams rely on one player being like the best of the best.
Yeah.
One team relies on Nakamo, who relies on everyone playing equally as well, and just pure defense. Kurino, where it's about attack, which is their best defense. And it's just watching these different types of teams fight each other, and then everyone having their own personal development and how they sync up with each other. Like, the third years are perfectly in sync. Kageyama and Hinata are perfectly in sync. Everyone has their favourite person in the team, and that's what it would be like. Not everyone would get along as best friends. Like, they're all good friends, but I think in a sports anime like that, it does a good job showing like who people prefer, who they get along with best. Like, you know what I mean? I like how it shows those personal friendships a lot more than just showing everyone loves each other, and it's not afraid to show conflict between characters.
It's so good. I think it really does balance a mixture of what the team is like inside and outside of the sport. Like, so there's basically, you have your teammates and you have your friends. Just because they're your teammates doesn't mean they have to be your friends. And I think you can really kind of see like who's friends and who are teammates in different teams as well.
Yeah.
I think like also in this season we had Kenma and Yamamoto, and like they were teammates, but they were not friends at the start. They were really kind of like against each other, and then by the end we can see that they're like calling each other by their names properly and everything. So you can see that they've grown as friends now, and that's just it's so interesting to see so many different dynamics between characters.
I always find it weird because I saw people complain about the Nekama match. It's like, oh, why did I put the Nekama match there? It's just in the middle of a match. I'm like, it's so important.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Yes.
They need to grow that team because I'm so excited for that because they've always done the, what is it, the garbage dump versus... What's it called? It's like,
Battle of the garbage dump. Yeah.
It's like, it's been hyped since season 1, mate. We only got to see like... And one thing I love, it doesn't keep reusing teams like... You don't just keep seeing them face Nekama repeatedly and failing. It's like, we got that one match and now it's just like... 4 seasons later, potentially in the 5th season, we get to see it.
Yeah, we literally got that one match, and then we got snippets of like practice matches against them in the summer camp. That was it. It was really just like snippets. It wasn't like a full match. We had like a match against Fukurodani instead. So it's just I haven't obviously because I was so behind on Haikyuu. I haven't looked too much into what people have been saying about certain episodes. I think like after episode maybe 16 or 17, I kind of wasn't looking at what people were saying, so I have no idea about people's opinions about certain things. But the Nekama match, I think really does make sense there, because if we didn't have it there, either we wouldn't include it at all, which would be like, what? No, we need this more tension building. We need to build their characters up even more. Just keep going for it, and seeing how they've changed, and just actually learning more about them. Because if we see them against different opponents, we see different sides of the team. Because we see them against Karasuno, which is a very offensive team, but when they're against a team which is like going for defense and endurance against, especially poor Kenma, who doesn't have a lot of stamina, like it's a completely different thing. Whereas like against Karasuno, it's not about stamina, because it's just like, well, except from like for middle blockers and stuff, it's mainly about strategy and how they're attacking each other, and trying to get used to each other's attacks and defense.
That's why I'm gonna love that match, because their play styles just they're so the biggest opposites you can get.
Yeah.
Gono's like fucking full on attack. Let's fucking go.
And put all of stamina.
Oh, that's one thing I've really loved about this season. It was the first one where we had multiple. It was longer games, weren't it? Like, there was more sets. So it's like showing the exhaustion, showing the. Sorry for sidetracking it. It's just like.
No, it's fine. No, I do this too.
Yeah, the just showing how the lighting affects the players. Looking up at the bigger ceiling, the crowd difference, the crowd. They did such a good job with the crowd.
So many different ways as well. Because not only did we have the Inarizaki one, and we also had the Karasuno crowd, which like we've been waiting for. I mean, most people, maybe not everyone, but most people have been waiting for us to get a cheer squad, like a proper cheer squad going. So the fact that we actually have people is amazing. But like how both of those kind of affect the moods of the teams, like especially the booing. I love how angry everyone was at the fact that their crowd was booing people, because it's just awful. It's just such a horrible thing to do.
What's so superb about it as well was like if I see a crowd in most sports anime, I'm like, they're just doing it to pander for time. They have to get their opinion on everything. One thing that Haikyuu does is respect our intelligence of the sport. We've watched this show since season 1. I'm not a volleyball expert, but the show's done a good job teaching me volleyball without having to keep hammering it. Whereas, like, you would see, say, with Ippo, it would go to the crowd to explain every punch that's been explained multiple episodes ago, and Haikyuu has that nice respect, so it doesn't use the crowd as an expedition dump. It does sometimes, but it's when necessary, like when Kogiyama goes under the net onto the opponent's side of the team. It's like, I don't know what I'm like, that's illegal! When it's not. What is this illegal move? It's like, it's not. And that's a good time to use the crowd, so it knows when to use the crowd like that, but they're actually using it as a part of the atmosphere and affecting the game is genius, and they do a good job, because it does.
I think the crowd really does represent the viewer as a viewer who doesn't play volleyball. So, for example, in this one, it was the girlfriend or the ex-girlfriend. I don't know if she's back together with him properly. And the time when Hinata's hand touched it before it was set. And I kind of cheered and went, oh, wait, no, something's wrong. What's wrong with that? And I kind of, just before she said it, kind of worked out, was it because it hadn't actually been set or spiked and he touched it, so it was like him reaching over and slamming it down? It'd be the same thing. It's the equivalent of doing that, because there's no real difference except from like the motion. And then like they actually did explain the rule, like, okay, this is a rule we hadn't needed to know before because it's never happened before, so why would they explain it to us? We don't need to have a rule dump on us right in season one. We know they just slowly give it to us, and so it means we're not having to go, oh, is that a certain thing which is illegal, or is it something else? We weren't struggling to remember. It was so natural to like learn the different rules as they were applied that like it, yeah, like you said, it just felt like they respect us. So once they said something, they rarely ever said it again, or if only if it's like a slight variation to explain why this was allowed.
It because generally, if say it was another anime, say when Hinata goes to spike, it's like, oh, Hinata spiked that ball and he planned it 10 moves ago. Oh, you should it's just like should have seen the way he bent his knees and he went for the jump that gave it the full power. It's like we don't need to know that. The visual storytelling's there, and it does a good job at showing it. Like one thing I enjoy about watching like coaches react to the show is that they can point out how accurate it's being.
Yes.
With like, because like
the
apparently it's quite accurate.
Of the arms,
positioning, where the leg is, the placements, the jump, the busy. It's like
even like things like just not even necessarily like skills and stuff, but reactions to being hit by balls and stuff. Like by receiving, you get pushed back a bit, or you'd rolled because you've got that much power coming into you. Like that kind of attention to detail. And I think like I can't even remember what point now, but there was like a hand movement. I think I don't know, but like even like certain hand movements, which like unnecessary really to show us in terms of like what the anime needs to show us. But like again, it's just it really builds on the fact that it makes it feel real.
It's super important for someone who is a volleyball fan. Like I don't know volleyball, so I'm not picking up on these things.
Yeah.
But it would be basically if I'm watching a sci-fi and then they start doing unrealistic things against sci-fi. If you're saying trying to be a realistic sci-fi, but then it starts doing things against the physics, you're like, that's putting me out of it. That's annoying me. Whereas that it just takes you out of the immersion. So I'm guessing people who obviously know volleyball a bit more, it's good that they do that because it would put them out of it. If you knew and you're like, nah, that's not how the ball would go. Even how it shows how the hands are flat, the curved, and that's things I've learned from watching the coaches. They explain.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see what they have to say about like some of the setting techniques, like whether they push their fingers forward or let them kind of go out or whatever they're doing after they've set.
I think with Okinawa is how many steps he takes. He does the 3 steps. Something I think about, and it's like I don't think about that, but when you get explained to you, like, oh, that's really cool. Yeah, that's cool that they do that.
Yeah. It's really good, and there's just so I don't know. I think like especially as we go more and more into it, we are learning these kind of finer details, which you probably wouldn't notice even if you just like were a fan of volleyball, just watching it, spectating rather than actually playing. So these things you probably wouldn't even pick up on, but because we explain, we actually kind of get to appreciate kind of the sport even more, which is just brilliant. Like I'm like genuinely like watching volleyball matches now. Like it's because I can understand so much of what's going on. Like I can't like come up with the stuff and know where I'd be able to play it, but I can appreciate what's happening more than when I'm just watching it before. I'd be like, oh, it's going up in the end, it's getting hit. That's it.
I know I've shouted Ippo a bit, but the good things about Ippo, I remember watching Ippo. I never saw boxing more as hitting each other. But when you start learning, you have a defense box, you have people who clinch, you have people who dash, you have infighters, and when you start learning all those little details, then when you're watching it, you're like, okay, it's like a video game. If you're watching someone play a video game, but you have no clue what's going on, you just looks a lot jarbish. Once you know, you're like, oh, this is what he's doing, this is what I'm thinking. It's the same with Haikyuu. It's like I can see a volleyball match now, and I can see, oh, the spiking, this guy's doing that, this setting. It just makes a lot more sense.
Yeah,
and it's like I love how anime can do that. So it can give you. People say, "Well, oh, you got into that." Because if I go, "Oh, how'd you get into boxing?" Oh, because I watched Ippo the anime. They'll just look at me like, "What?" But generally, it's like I got into volleyball because I watched the anime of volleyball.
I mean, what it is, it's kind of like Hinata's thing. Like you watch something happening and you can get inspired by it, or like for me, like obviously with Haikyuu, it wasn't like an inspiring thing, but it was just like gradually over time I came to appreciate the sport, and I think the best sport animes get you to appreciate the sport as someone. If you're someone who doesn't play it, you appreciate it more. As someone who does play it, you enjoy it because it's showing people what's so great about it. So you'll enjoy the fact that more people get to appreciate the sport through it.
Watching someone have passion about something will always be a joy to watch. Like, it could be a simple thing as like a card game, but if someone got passion for it and you watch them, you get passionate for it. You're like, oh, you want them to win. And I think Haikyuu does a good job. What would you say your top 2 moments were in season? Whole of Haikyuu or just season 4?
I cannot do whole of Haikyuu.
We're sticking in season 4 at the moment. I feel like this is where the discussion has gone. Thank God. Because otherwise, if we were talking about season 2 and that lot. So,
oh my God.
Yeah, go on.
Top moments in season 4. Okay. Obviously, Hinata receiving just huge for me. He's just so big. Because we'd had the whole build up during season 4 for it. So Hinata managing to nail that receive, and because it was so well done, like this is just building up of it. Kageyama having to like actually praise him, but then obviously deny it afterwards. But having to praise him in the moment to say like nice receive, just brilliant.
The comedy in Haikyuu is, by the way.
Oh,
it's so good.
It's really tasteful for a shonen anime. Like a lot of shonens, like I will watch them, but there are moments where I'm just kind of like roll my eyes a little bit because it's like,
cringe.
Like kind of like it's definitely an anime that I like to show as a starting anime for people because it's quite easy to get into it. Because you haven't got these quite jarring moments of that kind of more questionable comedy and kind of like a bit more perverse comedy. It's very much kind of slapstick comedy and kind of the jabs and like it's I think it translates quite well, just like universally, like through the language, as long as you have good subtitles. But I think it's like, but I think it does come across quite well. I love the comedy in it. It's such a variety of comedy as well, but I really do love the comedy in Haikyuu. I think it's done very well, and it's not too much of it. Like they don't not have their serious moments. It has its serious moments, but when it does decide to be a bit comedic, like it fits in because it's normally something to do with the character traits. So it's normally Hinata and Kageyama doing something stupid together, and because it completely fits in with their characters, and it's not like out of the blue. We know what they're like, so it makes sense for them to be doing whatever they're doing at the time, or saying to each other whatever at the time. Yeah,
that is great. What's your second one then?
Oh god,
Pain.
Oh my god, it's so hard because there are so many. I mean,
we'll do top three. Do top three, and then we'll.
Okay, I don't know if I'd be able to order anything else because it's really been me trying to think through the season and what actually really stood out to me. But I mean, that really stood out to me. I mean, the whole recrowning of like Kageyama, but not necessarily just the kind of scene, but just kind of that plot line was like a favorite kind of every time we were focusing on it, and like including in the last couple of episodes of the season when Atsumu was talking about the fact that he wasn't a goody two shoes. Like the fact that he was actually the Serene King, that was the title of the episode, and the fact that he, that I think that the moment how much it
bothered him.
Yeah. Oh God. Yes. I know. It's so good. I love that so much. That was another just brilliant moment. I think the last one, I kind of have to put it at Tanaka because it made me so emotional. I think that episode was done so brilliantly. I like by the end, because I think if we just had that moment of him getting that cross shot and like overcoming without any of the flashbacks or any of his inner thoughts, like it would just been like a normal, quite an epic move in Haikyuu. But it got me so emotional seeing this build up and like seeing him getting knocked down all the time and like even unintentionally by his teammates, them seeming to have less like faith in him. That wasn't the case. They were just like literally thinking for the best of the team, and they weren't like disrespecting him. But
it's always that thing. It's always your reality. You always everyone has a different one. So it's
and
his reality.
I think it's also the first time we've really had a focus on Tanaka's point of view for anything, because we've never really gone into his backstory, or even if we did, it was from someone else's point of view. Kind of, we weren't really seeing his like thoughts. So like the whole thing about him thinking about how he's average compared to everyone else, and then also at the same time saying, when I was little I thought I was a genius. Actually, you know, in middle school I thought I was a genius. You know, I'm kind of still convinced I am a genius. Like, yeah, he's so like contrary in what he's thinking, but like just no, that I think just because of how big an impact it had on me emotionally, that has to be in one of my top moments.
No, I think that's solid. I think mine would be the block. For obviously, I love the block. I think it's such a fantastic moment. Sugiwawa's crying would always be
just a great moment.
That's crying, it made me cry. I was like, if you cry, because I think the third year's relationship, I think it's, as I've gotten older, it's something that you really get attached to.
Yeah.
Like watching Well, like when it didn't get to nationals, that would have been their last game, and then they really pushed forward that this is it for them. And like I mentioned earlier on the discussion, it's just like I really felt that. It was just like, when like good friends, this is probably going to be the last big game together. And him being, because he's played such a big part on the sideline, but he was never there. Like he's not always on the court, but he was sort of respectful, and like he had his bitterness, of course, for the show, but he was never bitter. He was always positive, and he always, every time he went on pitch, he just changed the whole atmosphere.
Oh yeah.
So seeing that, I just couldn't help myself. It would make me tear up.
I think also just like his role as like kind of like the mum of the team, like just him noticing when the other players are doing well and how they're changing, especially with like Hinata. The moment when Hinata was watching like a practice match, or like watching them practice after he got back from the training camp, and he was commenting on Suki being able to jump higher because he was used to a higher set because of the training camp. And then like Suga said, "Oh, like that's some growth," and like Hinch was like, "Oh yeah, no, like he's done really well at the training camp." And like Suga's like, "Not just him, like you too." Like having him, I don't know, because I think a really important thing for me, well, not really important, but I really enjoy seeing is when I feel a certain way about a certain character or notice certain things that they're doing. I think when other characters don't notice it, I get a little bit upset, like all this training they put into it kind of thing. But having someone like be inside the universe appreciating it, I like suddenly feel better because I can connect with them. I'm like, oh yes, I'm glad someone is feeling this way as well. Yeah.
I think third moment, it's knocking up the ball in the air. I love that moment too much. It's too good.
That is such a good moment. That made me crazy.
Because I remember watching how intense that set was. I was like,
they kept going faster and faster.
And it was just like, it wouldn't stop. It was like I was getting like a heart attack, and it was just like, and then out of nowhere, ball goes in the air, and I'm like, what's going on? And it's like he not purposely fucking throwing it up so high so everyone could just slow the fuck down.
It was so good. And
because of how intense it was like, this is the last game. This is super important. They've got to win this. And it was like, I didn't know.
Any mistake, you're like going, no, because it's like a juice and everything. So you're like, no, don't try and rush.
And they plan it out that, this is going to be the last game of the show, of this season. So it's not like, I have not read the manga. I don't know if they're going to win or lose.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like, oh, fuck, like you say.
Yeah. Like I think again, we had also Ukai getting panicked, and he was like, slow down, really like trying to get them to listen to him, and just shouting, and none of them can hear him because they're so focused in the game. And then like the fact that Hinta, I mean, it's been several times, because I think there's been other times when Ukai has kind of gone, how do I cope with Kageyama, and how do I stop this tension, and how do I break it? And we've had Nishinoya do it back in season 2 when he said, "Oh, I'm at your backs, I'm guarding you, don't think about it, just keep looking forward." But we've also had a lot more Hinata breaking tension, like when they were super stressed because everyone was being targeted. So like Atsumu's serves were targeting Noya, which was really getting him down and quiet. And just like loads of people just not being able to spike successfully because they kept getting blocked. All sorts of different things going wrong, and everyone was getting really down and getting desperate because they're like, oh my god, are we going to lose this? Is this our last match? And then he just like, did you see the receive I did? Like, wasn't it amazing? And it's like such a break of tension. It's so good.
It's so important as well. Hinata's a little beast. But yeah, I think they're my top 3. 2 are Hinata, so it just proves how much I'm great.
No, like I would just keep listing Hinata moments. Like they're like always in my top for every season. I have my top moments just.
Like the concrete and stuff like that. I loved him before, but I don't know how I love 3 or 4. I love these characters, like generally love these characters, and then still have season 4 is like, can you push your
how much word? Can I love these
I'm gonna need a new word because love's not cutting it anymore. You know what I'm saying?
I adore these characters. I have adopted them. They are mine.
Must protect.
Oh my god.
One character I don't like in the show, and I never will, was the one with the glasses. The manager. That's one character that never grew on me fully.
I think I get what you mean. I think, but I because they focus so much on the characters in the teams, not just on Karasu, they really can't focus much time on other characters. We get what we can of them. I'm glad that she's had more moments in season 4, like a bit about her.
That one episode,
yeah, and kind of also getting to see why she stuck with the team even when it was really low, kind of like on like in terms of just like we were average, we weren't great or anything. before the first years joined and the team changed. Kind of seeing why she had joined and just like her relationship and how she feels about all the other players. Because like the problem with her being a shy character, because that's what she's shy. That's why she doesn't speak a lot. Is that like the problem is because we're not seeing her point of view, we don't really get to see what she's thinking most of the time. And so
compared to the other girl as well.
She's so expressive, and we did, within her first episode, we got to see her point of view. So the fact that we were seeing her being terrified and thinking everyone's going to assassinate her, that kind of thing, like we immediately endeared to her.
Oh, I love her.
She had such a big personality, whereas like Kyoko's quite shy and reserved in character, so really to the side. But I mean, when it was season 3 and everyone was crying, when I saw her cry, it made me just cry even more because you can see how emotional she was about it, and it's like it's nice to see that. Whereas we wouldn't really actually know if we hadn't seen her crying her eyes out after the season 3 match. So I think she's probably the weakest character.
I can't complain because a lot of shows I've been naming off weak characters in the cast.
Several characters.
For this. Like I don't really count like the characters you don't see very often because there's a big cast of characters. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
If she's my weakest, that's not bad. That's not bad.
Yeah.
I can't think of a character I dislike in the main cast. There's no character I dislike. I don't like. I'm a bit neutral towards her, but I don't dislike her. Especially for such a big cast of characters. Like there's a lot of shows where I'm like, oh, this is terrible. What are they doing? The show gets on without doing any fan service. It does a lot of things that other shows just get wrong. Having like one-dimensional characters. There's a show with this sort of big cast. I've watched a lot of anime and we've all watched for long run, and they tend to just give a character one character trait, and that's their character trait for the rest. That is your character trait. You are the moody one. You are the one with loads of energy. You are the one who does this. Where they take characters like that and then just expand. Like Suki in most anime would have just been the snarky one, and that was it. All he would do for the rest of the show is do snarky comments, bullying. That's his character. That's what a lot of shows would do. Whereas Haikyuu was like, no, we're going to give him time. Even like the redhead kid off Tendo. Fucking love that guy. It was like, oh, it's great.
I think when I started Haikyuu, I mentioned this I think in my first reaction on my channel for it, but I had actually put off watching Haikyuu for a bit just because I didn't know anything about volleyball and I didn't really know enough about it to see what could be exciting about watching it. And I'd also seen a lot of sports anime at the time, so I wanted a break from it. But then I suddenly watched it, and at the start I was not a big fan of Suki because, like you said, kind of when you get that kind of character in most anime, they're just very one-dimensional. They'll just be the bully, they'll just be snarky, but like have no like merit to them. But I think as soon as like I saw him when in the practice match against Seijo, and he was being like really snarky to the other team, I said, oh, okay, I can see why I could grow to like this guy. And then you get to see other sides to him, especially around Yamaguchi, like just that he won't show to the others because he's like
their friendship's so cute.
Yeah, just like it's just that he has more character to him, and therefore I did grow to love him as well, which I would not have expected from episode 3. I'd have thought I'd have hated him, or not hated him, but I'd have tolerated him, but he wouldn't be like anywhere near my top characters at all.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
I think we'll definitely talk about the character more on the side, nice, because obviously we sort of talk about main characters, but when we do the tier list, we can talk about like Yamaguchi and stuff like that, which would be quite nice. Because there's so many little characters, like the one who took over Dachi's place. Like we're not even really talked about Dachi, we're not really talked about you. There's so many characters to talk about, so we'll definitely talk about that a bit more in the tier list video. Because otherwise, it's going to be a 5-hour podcast. Yeah, I'm glad we've sort of limited this. We're sort of focused on season 4 because we start going into the other seasons. Even if I don't remember them as well, they're slowly coming back to me, and I'm like,
I know. Because the problem is, whilst you were reacting to them, like occasionally be like, oh, Izzy, I've watched this episode. Let's talk, and we'd have like a chat about the episode or about like what's been happening then. So yeah.
Right, Izzy, are you free? Yeah, join chat now. It was so good. Get voice chat.
It's just me fangirl. I could have fangirl about Haikyuu for the days on end. Honestly, there's so much to appreciate about it. Yeah, I think it's done so well.
It's such a good show. Fucking hell. I love Haikyuu. I miss it so much. Give it me back.
I know.
The music, we don't even touch upon the music. Music in Haikyuu is fucking fantastic.
Oh my god! I mean, yes.
Jesus.
It is one of my favorite OSTs to listen to, just like
Dun,
doing anything.
dun,
But
dun,
the new
dun.
tracks this season were so different to previous seasons. Like they were really funky. There were some really funky tracks, and like some of them were only played for like, or parts of them were only played for like 10, 20 seconds. And I was like, oh, I want to hear the rest of that OST. Like,
So
oh,
hype.
and it really does build up emotion. Like in anything, music is such a big part of like building up emotion. Especially in any kind of just any scene, especially if there's not a lot of talking going on, not a lot of voice acting going on. You need the music to like build up any kind of emotional tension.
No, 100%.
Sorry, I'm just gonna let my phone ring.
Blow it up! Mate, don't keep making me try to edit stuff. I'm gonna feel like going through it. Just like,
It's gonna be so noisy.
Because I'm still debating, do I cut out all the pauses or is it nature? I'm just like, oh, how am I going to do this? Like, how...
Your door slamming, whatnot in the background. Like, thanks, guys.
Thanks,
They
guys.
do know I'm recording.
To be fair, I
I
don't
don't-
hear too much. I think once I do noise reduction, I won't be able
Oh,
to
yeah,
hear
no,
too
when you
much.
get my audio file, it'll be awful.
Oh, I'll be on there on Audacity. Like, no, I'm just hoping for is everything's recording okay. Nothing's going wrong. I'm tempted just to pause
I
everything.
know, I'm just
and
gonna
then
just
press
go
play
quickly check
again.
my phone because the screen's turned off. Nope, it's still recording. We've been going for an hour and 25 minutes.
The problem is we could keep going for longer.
I know.
We do have
okay.
we do have the tier video to do.
I know, so, try not
is there
to go into
anything
characters anymore.
non-character? Is there anything non-character related that we want to talk about? Like, we just touched upon the music.
Yeah.
So.
What did you think of the opening and ending for this season?
I forgot it. if that explains how much I care for the opening. Opening season 3's opening is fucking love that opening.
Yeah.
No, the ending. Is the ending this one where everyone's being carried on the back? Well, that was season 3's, weren't it?
Wait, what do you mean carried on the back?
Which one?
As in...
Where everyone's like on the back in the art, and it's just like, you know, it's all the teams and it's going across the paint.
Oh yeah, that's
season 3.
Yeah.
Which one was this one? Remind me.
This one was the one where the other teams are watching them play, so it's got like it shows bits of footage, and then it's everyone watching them, which I really liked when they incorporated that into the actual show, and we got to see the teams going, "No, come on, you can't give up, you need to keep going."
Like Okinawa just running. It's just like, oh yes. Opening, I don't remember it very well. Gotta be honest.
So what I normally do when I watch stuff, it depends what I'm doing. If I'm binge watching something, I will probably watch the opening several times. If I really love it, keep watching it. If I don't, then I'll just skip it because if I'm binging, I'll binge. But because I've been reacting every week, I do let it play, and maybe I'm not watching it every time, but I'm listening to it.
I think I generally just wanted to get to the episode.
Yeah.
So I was just like, sorry.
No, it's fine.
Season 3, I was like watching it every time. So,
Yeah.
The hawk. Yeah, let's go. Oh, with the walk. Yeah, the dramatic anime walk was this one. I was like, skip. Give me the episode. I need to see what happens. Because Haikyuu.
I thought it was all right actually, and it did really grow on me. As in, like most openings do grow on me a lot. I mean, Fly High was the one that Fly High and season 3 opening, Hikari Are or something along those lines. Like just both of those were immediate. Oh god, this is just amazing, brilliant. Like I will be listening to this for ages. But not every other one, but most of the others, like after a few episodes, it really warmed up to me. But I also kind of like seeing. I love watching the animation in the openings because they can like focus on different things or give it to other teams to animate. So it's quite interesting to see how they're animated. Like obviously in season 3, they went super detailed with like sweat flying off them and like really focusing on certain moves and like the blackout whilst they're playing and the camera movement. But like, so my favorite part of like this opening was when we switched from like Hinata spiking and then it suddenly got into the match with him running and spiking. Like, just
anytime it did the running in the openings when it's just like them running across the net, I'm like, yeah, let's go. Spike that ball.
Yeah. That's why I half the reason I kept watching it, so that like we get to that moment, I'd go, right, I'm watching this bit, and then I carry on.
The animation for spiking is goddamn beautiful sometimes, especially when everyone. Oh, when Hinata used to zap to one side of the net to the other, it's like, oh, I love it.
I think since we've talked like quite a bit about like how Haikyuu does kind of respect reality and kind of like make things realistic, we also have to kind of appreciate the other things. Like we talked a bit like how characters act and like how they look, obviously being kind of more fictional because like some expressions and stuff just you don't see that much in real life.
The thing is, it's anime, and like it's like,
yeah.
If we wanted to watch it live, we watch live action.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
is the part of the. There was even a bit of me every time I watched Haikyuu, I just wanted a bit where they would both reach the ball, and it always made them realistic and made it pop when they pop the ball. But I'm always like, "Where's the anime beam?" It's like Rasengan and Shidori in it. Like, give me that. That's why I'm like, like fucking Ippo when it does punches, it does jet engines. It's like, I love the exaggeration, but I did appreciate when Haikyuu did it. Like, it was quick about it. Like, when there was a dunk, it was just like.
It's just like, it really just.
Oh, he just fucking destroyed him.
The pacing of like the matches and like when they know when to do slow motion, when they know when to do it in real time is so important. But one thing I do like though is that they do. Like, I mean, like we said before, like some of the abilities that the guys have done, or the kind of moves they pull off, they can. Some of them can be pulled off, but like by professionals, by like Olympian level professionals. So like having these kids be able to pull these off, or even like anyone pull them off, is quite hard to imagine.
One thing with the coach was mentioning, like there's coaches that would mention like this is like high, it's college level. This is way above what they should be able to do. But that's the fun about anime. It's like we want to see these cool synchro attacks. Synchro attacks. They probably need fucking like I watched Baby Step. Baby Step is literally like it's a guy who started tennis in his like mid-teens, and everyone else started when there was like 5, and it was just being so slow. It was so realistic, but it's like, oh, he's not improving at all. Whereas like a synchro attack, they learn it in like a couple episodes. That would take fucking years and years of team training, but it looks cool.
I want to see it. Like there is time passing as well, and we see snippets of them doing it, but we don't need to see every time it gets slightly better. We have the montage. Like I think that was a really tasteful kind of montage in season 2 with the training. Like we got to see a lot of the things, but we did also flick through some things just to see, these people are also training together. Wonder what they're going to be doing or how they're going to like build on whatever they're building on. But I do appreciate the fact, like, again, like we're watching this because it's fictional. We're watching this because things can happen which wouldn't happen in real life. And so being able to see these fantastic moves, like they're brilliant to watch, and like just because they're so out there and they're just like so unbelievable, it just makes it even more exciting to watch, because you're kind of like, I wonder what they're going to pull off, because they technically could do anything, but Haikyuu, they're going to restrain themselves to something that's within the laws of physics. So it's like, what they're going to do?
we're not going to see like fucking them thought using abilities. Like I know Kuroko Basket isn't that more like supernatural.
Oh god, I mean, it's quite a fun thing if you don't mind it, but it's kind of like it is very much like you can't imagine it being a real match at all.
My favourite sports anime, which is the closest to Haikyuu, is Galactic Football, which is that's set in space, so they have all sorts of abilities. But that was like the first team sports anime I ever watched, not anime, but that cartoon I watched, and I really enjoyed that. So I think I got a lot of nostalgia from Haikyuu as well, because it was like I loved Galactic Football, so watching this, I got similar vibes. I was like, I love this. That's why I think I instantly started. I just loved Haikyuu. But yeah, it was weird. The whole volleyball aspect was weird, because I didn't like volleyball. I never played it. I didn't really think much of it. It's like volleyball anime.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. I put it way to the side whilst I kept watching other things that I knew were like highly recommended, or like that were getting really high scores and stuff. And I kept seeing Haikyuu pop up, and I was kind of like, oh, it's just because I've watched sports anime and it's a sports anime, and I kind of didn't go into it. And then I finally saw someone recommend it that I kind of went, okay, I will give this a shot. And it was what was it? It was when Hinata and Kageyama first met, and it was the start of the rivalry. It was literally when it fades to white, the background, it's the two of them stare each other down. I was like, okay, no, I'm sold. I live for these two characters now.
The first episode's fantastic. Like, I rewatched the first episode. It's just like, I fucking loved Hinata from the first episode. It's just like, look how much fucking passion he's putting into this, bruv. It's like, yes, I want to support you.
Everyone's immediately cheering for him. They immediately endeared to him.
My favourite, fuck my top 3 from earlier. My favourite thing was his friends showing back up from school.
Such a payoff moment.
Yeah, it was such I needed you to come. I was like always waiting.
And we saw them for half an episode at the very start of the show.
I'm like, do you know when they're showing up? I was like, yeah, that's what I want. I love stuff like that. It's the little things like that I just love.
I think because also some people like talk about, another thing people talk about Haikyuu is the slice of life elements to it, which is they're kind of a little bit sparser than you would expect in most anime. A lot of them will kind of look a bit more at home life and stuff, whereas like we've never seen Hinata's mum. We've heard her voice a couple of times. We've seen his little sister a couple of times in actual scenes, but like altogether wouldn't kind of go above 5 minutes of actual screen time of her.
Oh, I could
Kind
watch
of
like 25 episode thing just to do the slice of life stuff. That's how
yeah,
much I love
like but
characters.
that's the thing. Like we're so endeared to these characters. We'd love to have even more slice of life with them. And so like anytime we get anything, it's like super exciting to see them. Like when we got to see them around New Year's for like half an episode, and we got to see them all meeting up to play together and things like that. Just outside of the club is great.
Do you know how Fate has like 1 billion spin-offs? I wish it didn't do it with Fate and did it with Haikyuu instead. Oh, you want a Nakama 25 episode series? Oh, that one character that you like, we're going to give him a 25 episode where he's like having daily life in school. So I'd fucking be eating it up. I'm like, mom.
I know, I would. It's just, I think that's the thing. When you build up a character so much, you do just want to see them doing anything, even the most mundane things. You just want to see how they live their life.
I want an Itachi episode where I'm seeing him cook eggs for Sasuke. You know what I mean? I want an episode where it's Hinata cooking an egg sandwich for Kaguya.
I mean, yeah, no, just like I know, I just there's so much, and like there's lots of things which are kind of also hinted at. Like we learn little things about them, but we never get to see expanded on. You're like, actually, you learned that they like this certain thing.
Well, one of my favorite moments is Kageyama. You just assume he's like super book smart. But when he does his schoolwork, he's fucking dumb as fuck. When it comes to volleyball, he's like a fucking S+++. Whereas when it comes to APL, he's normally be like, oh, he's just going to be super smart, good grades. And it's like, no, all he thinks about is fucking volleyball.
And it's not even like necessarily he's dumb, but it's just like he just
by far,
he just doesn't care to learn about anything else. Like all his passion is in volleyball, so he will put hours and hours into learning anything to do with it. And he's actually smart, but he just cannot put that effort into any of his like subjects.
IQ is such a weird thing because IQ is like, say you got like boxing IQ. When they're boxing, their IQ is like fucking thinking on the fly, reacting, doing that, and it's like they've got really high IQs. It's like that. He's got a super high volleyball IQ, but it's not that he's dumb. I just don't think he's passionate about studying. If he was passionate, he'd be like, that's how much passion can help you.
I mean, that's what like the special, like the OVA, and also in the episode where they show them studying for the exams because they realize, oh, we failed, we need to get this. And the fact that even though they did fail, like the reasons why they failed, so like Kageyama had managed to like learn so many kanji, which is like a really hard thing to do, that he like got all of them right, but because in that particular test there was less of focus on that and more focus on like comprehensive or something else that he wasn't great at either. And for Hinata, he got all the answers right, but he filled them in the wrong spaces. Like, the amount of effort they had to put in to get to that point was just amazing as well.
You haven't done that on the exams where you had to pick the A, B, C stuff, but you was always like, I've done it before where I was just off. It was like, I was always doing it on the one down. And afterwards you realise, you're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
It's like the same when you line, you know when you got trying to build a shelf, and then you put the pegs in, and then you put the shelf in, and the shelf's like that. You're like, oh, wait, the pegs are too high on one side.
it's like that, but also, like, another thing is, like, in art, when you've got so many layers when you're doing digital art, and you're like, oh, I've got my discrete layers, and you're, oh, no, I've been drawing on the original sketch. I've not been drawing on a different layer.
What have I done? No. I've done that with my silly art, and I'm like, pain. My thumbnail was just like, oh. When I go to rub out, and I'm rubbing out of another layer, I'm like, I fucking hate, why did I do that?
I know.
No, I think we should probably move on to the character tier list at some point. Hour and 40 was like, okay, I'm happy with that.
Okay.
We've got here way too easily.
I
was like, an hour 40, we would have covered quite a lot. And I look at hour 40, I'm like, I've still got hour 50 now, and I'm still like, oh, I've got a lot to do.
I know. I think in future ones, for future seasons, we can look back on other things that we haven't talked about before.
I think smart move. Sorry if the conversation's a bit everywhere, guys. We're I go off on tangents. Like, it's not going to be fun for me when I'm going to be like, I thought I was going to timestamp this. I'll be like talk about Double Bear, talk about animation, fanboying over Kageyama here, and it's just like, oh, it's not that.
To be fair, I did say to you, did you want to do topics?
No.
You said no.
I refuse to do topics. Because it would have just tangented off. It would have been harder.
Oh, yeah, no,
but if you guys want to help me out in the comments section by putting timestamps, then I can copy and paste them. Throwing it out there. Just be like, It'd just be like Liam fanboy and Izzy fanboy.
Literally between the both talking about this, go off on a tangent about all anime ever, go off about Ippo again.
Mate,
Yeah.
I gotta go off about Ippo. I think Ippo is like one of those wishes. That was my peak of sports anime until I watched Haikyuu. So it's like, oh, Ippo is my favourite sports anime. Watch Haikyuu, I'm like, bye Ippo. All your flaws, I'm picking on you now. You have all these flaws. Haikyuu has no flaws. Be more like Haikyuu. I like that. It was just like, I've got a new son. It's like, why can't you be more like him? He knows how to do an audience. He has pacing. What do you have?
I know. I'm always conflicted about people watching Haikyuu. Like I said, I do like people watching it as a first anime because it's quite an easy one to get into. But I always kind of conflicted because it's such a good anime that I'm like, don't set your standards too high. Like, be reasonable. Oh dear.
Honestly, if I sat here and go, Liam, find a negative with Haikyuu. The 2 episodes of season 4 had a bit of drawing animation. That's all I can think of. Like, I can't sit there and be like, the pacing was shit.
There are more episodes.
Go build up.
I need more. I need more of it.
I hate to say, I'm quite cynical and quite negative. And people have told me like I've been watching the series and like say like B-Stars recently with the last episode. I fucking hated it, so I'm very like hating on it. Like my opinion is when I'm hating on something, it's because I care a lot because they do something wrong.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if a show I love and they do something where it's like you fucked this up, then I get very angry about it.
Yeah.
So I'm very like quite negative. For me, not to be able to find more with Haikyuu just shows how much I love Haikyuu.
Yeah, because I mean, I think if you're passionate or you really enjoy anything, then you do also pick at it more. You are more fussy with it. You can see the flaws. Like some people are a bit blinded by it, but no, I think I'm quite like you. I do really kind of analyze different things in the show, and I think like anytime you kind of start picking apart something, if you're kind of showing how much you're paying attention to different things, if you're really nitpicking, I mean, that just means you love it so much you just wish it was even more. Like you just keep wanting it to be better.
There's a different I don't mind the people who nitpick the animation, for example. It was the people who started hating on the animators. It's like that's not necessary.
No.
Stuff like that where it's like you're going too far. It's fun to nitpick and show you care.
Yeah,
but it's just being a fucking ass.
Yeah.
But like for me, people always go like, oh, well, you don't complain about this certain thing happening in this show. It's simply because I don't care about that show as much. Like a show can have the exact same character and I could hate him in one series and love him in another. Just depends how I'm watching the show.
Yeah.
And like with Haikyuu, I super care. So if I was ever nitpicky, it'd be because like if they did something wrong, I'd be like, on it because it's like, oh, I love this show so much. But there isn't one. I've got nothing to complain about Haikyuu. I don't think there's a slow moment in the show. Fantastic cast of characters, good games. The animation is fucking consistent. Even when people say it was bad animation, compare that to a lot of sports anime. Like, Jesus. It doesn't cut away to the audience every 2 seconds to just clearly try and keep filling padding time.
The audience itself is built up. Like, we have members of the audience which are focused on, which is insane.
Yeah.
Like,
what was that? Haikyuu could have done a thing every time there's a spike. It could have then go to an explanation of the audience talking about it or reacting to it or going to like, you know, the TV reactions we get in the ending. It could have been every time it would just go to every single cast member we've seen like reacting to that thingy. Like that's called padding and shows do it. Whereas I think Haikyuu did a good job. I've got nothing but good words to say about Haikyuu. I think the writer did a fantastic job. Like, I'm super impressed. I'm looking forward to see what it's going to do in future seasons.
Yeah.
Don't know about like. Is it your favorite anime of all time?
It is. It's as a series, it is in probably my top 3 anime.
See, I'm too much of a sucker for romance drama. Like, all right, here we go. Toradora is not my favourite show. Toradora is flawed to fuck, and I love Toradora. It's like, mwah, but you fucked that show. That ending was dreadful. And that's something where I pick it apart because I love that show so much. I'm like, oh, you fucking give it a 10. What is it? It's like, I'm a big sucker for romance drama. So my flaw with Haikyuu, I've got one. There wasn't enough shipping, and I don't care. There's a lot of shipping between the guy fandom. If you want to ship, you know what I mean. If you want to ship all that,
I'm going to say this. That's not an issue for me. I have plenty. I have plenty.
I'm not there shipping Kogeyama. You know, I can see why people do. I'm just went there, but it's like romance-wise, there's none in Haikyuu because they don't have time for it, and I don't care because it's not meant to be in. It's not part of the show. That's just me being like, I love my romance drama stuff. I need my romance, but yeah. So it's definitely in my top definitely top 5, I'd say. Yeah, I'd give it a top 5 spot, which is impressive. Say I'm very picky about my genre of anime I like. Say it's not a romance or a drama or a heavy.
The fact that genre is something different to what your favourites is basically.
Yeah, I love sports anime, but they're nowhere near my top 20.
Mm-hmm.
I know, so it's for it to be there, it's it just shows because it's a story. It's not really even about the sport; it's just the characters themselves. It's
that's what it's like. The animation and the sport and the explanations behind the sport could have been amazing, but if they were bland characters, if they were one-dimensional, I wouldn't have cared about it. I mean, the whole like I was saying, I fell in love with episode 1 because of the Hinata and Kaya. It's before they'd even started playing. I hadn't seen any animation. Yeah. I'd literally seen them meet each other and stare each other down. I said, "Oh, brilliant! I need to see this more."
I have seen way too much interesting art of Haikyuu that I don't want to see in my life again. I think I've seen.
I swear that's not me. I have not
Kageyama doing things I don't ever want to see them do. Haikyuu fanbase, you're an interesting bunch.
I know. Yeah, I think they're pretty good, to be fair. But
fanbase for Haikyuu is fantastic. I have no complaints about them.
Yeah,
they're very if you compare the Haikyuu fanbase to Hunter x Hunter, Hunter x Hunter fanbase, oh, you didn't notice this. Oh, if you didn't. Oh, and then you start ripping apart and then moaning. It's you didn't notice until you watched a fucking deep dive video when I was explaining that scene to you. Whereas the Haikyuu fan base, they're fucking chill. They explain scenes to you. They give you info.
To see you excited about it. That's all they want, is to see you get excited about the matches and the games. That's all they want.
I'm sure there's toxic people in the Haikyuu fan base, but they all seem like they're very wholesome lot. Maybe because the show's wholesome, that's why they're not so. Maybe. I don't really see character wars, people arguing who the best character is. It's I love this character.
We just love everyone. I like this one. We love everyone.
It's pretty chill.
I think also the whole thing about, like we said, about character development is because they're so fleshed out. There's not a lot there is some things which you can insinuate on your own, but not a lot is left to your own personal take on people's characters because they're so fleshed out. Most people will have the same idea for a character's personality because it's so fleshed out. You can't really ignore it. Which is why my whole issue with the dub was that there are issues with the thing. So that's the only thing that people get really aggressive in Haikyuu about is don't watch the dub or watch the dub either way. It's because that makes such a big difference to the characters, and that's the biggest thing that the fan base loves is the characters.
Well, I see it as much as the kids 4U dubs for One Piece, where they changed words and they changed guns to scrubby toys.
They were finger guns. I was so confused by that for ages.
Yeah. It was it's not that bad, obviously, but yeah, I can see. But, yeah, I think I'm quite happy.
Yeah.
Where we've talked to. Is there anything else you want to discuss about season 4? There's plenty of stuff actually, but
I mean, let's not think about it too much. You'll just keep going.
Yeah. So, I will say this is a full discussion. Because I don't really, in my reviews I'm not someone who because I don't want to do a 2-hour semblance of sanity review. This is where I'm repeating myself at the end of the reaction. So I normally get about 5 minutes, 4 minutes where I'm just talking about the show at the end. So it's nice to just sit down and just fanboy over the show for 2 hours.
Yeah.
I know your reviews tend to be a bit more in depth.
I mean, not always. It's literally because I appreciate lots of different types of reviews. Some people take notes and stuff. I wouldn't take notes because I really do want to immerse myself. I hate pausing a show when I'm reacting to it because the whole point is to see the pacing and to see especially music and stuff. I need to see it happening as it's intended. So I would never take notes or anything. So it really is whatever pops into my mind at the end. And it's literally, you can see me kind of going, oh, wait, I forgot about this in an episode. And I will keep remembering things.
It's even time constraints because I watch a Tearpure reaction. That guy fucking flicks through every frame of the episode afterwards. Jesus, I respect that. That's dedication.
I mean, yeah, he takes notes of certain points he wants to revisit, whether it's about the dialogue and the themes or whether it's actually about the animation. So yeah, that's the kind of thing. But I am very much into this just as a passion for watching media, watching kind of anything. Just so it is purely based on me fangirling. So it's just whatever at the time is really in my mind, I will just ramble on about. And that's why I don't call them discussions. They're not discussions, they're rambling. It's just whatever I want to talk about.
I think the thing I always think for me is because I have such strong opinions, and my opinions change a lot from when I react to something. Sing Yesterday to me was anime I watched. I was I was so neutral towards the ending, but as weeks went on, I just hated it more and more. And I wish I just did a video where I just shat on it for an hour. I think I prefer this way. I could just, especially talking to someone, I think it's just a nice. You just get thoughts back and forth, which is nice. Like, you've corrected me on some stuff like the Okinawa stuff with the genius stuff. I'm like, do you know what? Your opinion makes a lot of sense though. I'm like, I agree with that. It's fun to bounce off like that. But no, it was quite enjoyable. Enjoyable talk, Izzy. We're going to now talk about fucking characters for like 5 hours because we're going to like find a character who's in the background of like season 2 and we're going to like discuss why he's a C tier character. I think you want to shout out anything? I'm guessing your YouTube channel.
If you enjoyed hearing me talk nonsense for this entire time and just want to hear more nonsense and unstructured talking and potential fangirling and lots of this.
If you want to see a lot of fangirling,
just occasional crying, that kind of thing, then check out my YouTube channel, which is Someone the Elusive Fangirl. That's pretty much it.
I want to say thank you if you guys watched through 2 British accents. Mate, fucking love that Haikyuu. You see him spat that ball on the floor.
Mate,
bloody hell, mate. Wait, fam, did you see? I went through a fan phase watching Haikyuu. I don't know why I kept saying fam during Haikyuu. I was like, fam. So I hate that word. Your blood.
Oh my god.
No, I had fun. This is fun. I like to do more of these actually. I think discussing anime. I think it's just like, I don't know, it's just discussing. I wanted to find about Haikyuu. This is basically what we're doing now. What we're doing now is basically I would be like when I was calling Izzy, it's like, Izzy, get on Discord. This is basically it.
just everyone else can listen in if they want.
You think it's because like in my 10-minute review, I might have been like, yes, this episode of Haikyuu was really good. I got emotionally invested. I think it was really good. And then I end the stream and I'll be like, Discord, Izzy, get on Discord.
I think in one of your episodes you did like have you texting me. You had like a bit of you texting me. And I was like, oh yeah.
I think I'd done it with War. I think I was watching that to the Eternal. I was just like, I was in the middle. I got to the end of the episode. I was like, whoa, this is sad. Why did you tell me to watch this? No, it's good. No, I love them. So guys, make sure to check out Izzy's channel. We're going to be doing tier list video. So if you're worried about why don't we talk about this character, guess what, we can do it over tier. We probably have to speedrun it, otherwise it's going to be like fucking 12 o'clock at night when we're done. But no, have fun. Hopefully everything worked. Hopefully.
I didn't record any footage, so I hope so.
Please work. I wanted to stop before power cut happens, but no, a lot of fun. Check Izzy out on the Loose Fangirl. Check the tier list video. Thanks for watching, guys, and the support through Haikyuu has been amazing. You have anything to add? Or are you good? Yeah? No? Thanks for watching, guys, and peace.